Hey guys, information about the new character Sentinel that will release in version 3.0 just dropped. We know her insight and her incantations and yeah, pretty much everything we have to know, we know. So let's take a look at her insight, at her incantations, what team she will belong to, and yeah, let's talk about her a little bit in general. The first thing that you have to be aware of is that she will be played and be a best in slot in the Blood Tide team. She will be the replacement for Eternity, as she will deal more damage and be more AP friendly, while simultaneously also generate Blood Tide, such as Eternity does. So this is an improvement to Eternity, and she is gonna be the best in slot for the Blood Tide team. That makes her a very good character to begin with. But be aware, you play Nautica, Semmelweis, Sentinel, and then either Ezra or Medicine Pocket. And that is gonna be the Blood Tide team. So now let's take a look at everything that Sentinel has to offer. Here we have her insights. So insight number 1 says, when any ally loses HP, you accumulate Blood Tide. When any ally holds a fear bullet, their crit rate increases. When any ally triggers a fear bullet through attacking, damage bonus increases, and X's crit rate is partially converted into crit damage. She will distribute these fear bullets to her entire team by using one of her incantations. Then her insight 3 says, when attacks trigger bullets, they have a chance to activate. If Moxie is not full, you gain Moxie. If you wouldn't gain Moxie, then you would gain a buff called Fresh Wound. Fresh Wound means that at the start of the round, you lose a little bit of max HP, and the amount of Blood Tide gained from this HP loss effect is increased. So you will lose a certain amount of max HP, and you generate a good amount of Blood Tide from doing this through this Fresh Wound buff. Oh, and by the way, a Fear Bullet, what it actually does is you deal a little bit of extra damage when attacking, of course, and this scales with the percentage of max HP. So whenever a character would use a Fear Bullet, they would deal increased damage based upon of how high their max HP is. And if you now remember what Nautica is all about, she is all about increasing her max HP, and all of her kit is based around increasing her damage based on her max HP. So Nautica will profit very much from these fear bullets that Sentinel accumulates for her. Now moving on to her incantations, let's take a look at incantation number 1. It's a one target attack and it deals reality damage. This attack is considered a penance. What that means is that the damage that this attack deals is based upon how much max HP Sentinel has. And after the attack, she gains Fresh Wound. And when actively attacking, you increase Blood Tide with this, but only if you use this skill actively. That's the part where you accumulate Blood Tide. That is very important when we talk about her incantation number 2. So let's move on and take a look at incantation number 2. Here is her incantation number 2, and this is by far the most important part of her kit and what Sentinel is all about. Let's read it first and then break it down to understand what this actually really does. So it's a channel, you gain a buff and a bullet. If you would not already have this buff that you gain from using this, then you would gain a buff called Surveillance. It consumes Blood Tide to grant the Fear Bullet to the adjacent ally in front. So first of all, if you would play Sentinel, if you would pull for her and play in a Blood Tide team, you would place her in a team behind Nautica, so that the 4 bullets that this accumulates, they go to Nautica. Okay, so you gain a buff that is called Repent You Must. What it does is, at the start of the round, you gain surveillance. After an enemy acts, you consume surveillance to cast your incantation number 1. At the end of the round, you consume all surveillance stacks to cast your incantation number 1 multiple times based on how many stacks of surveillance you consumed by doing this. So you would use this incantation number 2. You would gain a buff and again a bullet, and you would consume blood time to grant a bullet to Nautica. Now you have to use this incantation multiple times. In fact, over and over and over again. Like, the more you can use this, the more you use this. You spam this. Every time you have it, you use it. Because why you have to use this multiple times and as much as you can is because you gain stacks of surveillance by casting this. And you need as many stacks of surveillance as possible to make it happen that Sentinel counterattacks your opponent by using your incantation number 1 as many times as possible, because for every stack of surveillance that gets consumed by getting attacked, you use your incantation number 1, right? Multiple times based upon how many stacks of surveillance you consume by doing this. And that's what she's all about. You use her incantation number 2 as many times as you possibly can, and then, as complicated as all of this might sound, she will just generate everything that she needs to herself, and she will play herself. All you ever have to do is use this incantation number 2, and that's about it. You would only ever use your incantation number 1 actively if you want to accumulate additional blood tide. Otherwise, you never use Sentinel. You don't play this character. You only use your incantation number 2 every time you have it, and she will play herself and take care of everything. So let's now take a look at her ultimate. So here we have her ultimate. What it does is, it's a mass attack that deals reality damage. How much depends on how much max HP Sentinel has. What makes this incredible is that this incantation, this ultimate, that's not an incantation by the way, this ultimate doesn't count towards your rotation. You use this for free without consuming any AP for it. And yeah, like, the more stacks of fresh wound you would have, the more this would heal you actually. So again, this character is very, very AP friendly because she never uses her incantation number 1, excuse me. She never uses her incantation number 1 actively. She can do so if she want to accumulate blood tide, right? But yeah, you will barely ever do this. So you would only ever use incantation number 2. And even if you use your ultimate, you don't consume AP with that either. Yeah, all you do is you use incantation number 2 and then she plays herself, right? Even, yeah, of course, if you use your ultimate, you want as many stacks of fresh wounds as you can possibly have to heal yourself as much as you possibly can, right? This will be irrelevant sometimes, but most of the times this will actually come in clutch. So you accumulate these fresh wound stacks passively though, because by you using your incantation number 2, you will cast your incantation number 1 for free, and by casting your incantation number 1, you will gain stacks of fresh wound, you know? So Again, it doesn't get simpler than this, because again, all you have to do is to use your incantation number 2. Every time you have it in your hand, you use it. And that's about it. You don't even necessarily have to use it every single turn, because it's a channel, you know? And that's what makes this character incredible, because all your AP that you want to use in the Blood Tide team, you want to use all your AP with Nautica and Semmelweis. And that's why this character, Sentinel, is much better than Eternity would be, because Eternity requires you to use AP. You have to use both of her incantations actively. That consumes AP, and that is, yeah, not optimal. Additionally, Sentinel would also deal more damage, so she is much more AP friendly, and she will deal more damage, because her damage is based upon how much max HP she has. And she even makes it so that Nautica deals quite a bit more damage, because she accumulates 4 bullets for her, which increase Nautica's damage, you know? So it's a pretty good package to have for the Blood Tide team, and again, she will be the best in slot and the replacement for Eternity. And yeah, that's all about there is to say about Sentinel. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate that. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.